You're listening to Guts and Grind with Siju and Sajan, making the real estate journey accessible to anyone.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us again. My name is Sajan. I'm here with Siju as usual. Today, we're going to be talking about a cash-out refinance, what it is and how you could use it. But before we dive in, Siju, how's life, man? How's everything going?
Hanging in there, brother. I'm going through Corona. I think everything's opening up now. I noticed all the no mask no more here in Texas.
I know. It kind of scares me, man. I'm like, I still want to see people wear masks, because even if you're vaccinated, you can still spread it. You know what I mean? So I'm almost there. Like I got one more shot to go, but I think with my circle of people that I'm like cool with, I'm okay, no mask. But if I'm like at HEB or somewhere else, man, I don't know what these people got. I'm staying masked up. That's just me though. I'm not gonna knock anybody else.
Nope, I am 100% agreement with you. I'm still okay wearing a mask. Actually, I think I got used to it.
I think that's what it is. I think it's like, this doesn't bother me as much as when I first started doing it. And so I'm like, why not have that extra layer of protection,
The beginning was very tough. I was like, man, I can't do this mask life. I feel claustrophobic.
Seriously, the steam of your own breath just hitting your face, man. It's just
Yeah, I've gotten used to it. I honestly, I think that's, we're in the same boat. Anywhere we go out publicly and stuff, we're masked up and go on. But it's good. I'm glad to see things are opening up. I see a lot more restaurants are open and the economy's doing good. We have to get back going. So it's a good thing.
No, for sure. And don't get me wrong, like I'm excited to get to the point where we don't need masks anymore, because it is annoying. Like, don't get me wrong. Like I would prefer not to wear it than to wear it. But since we're still kind of in that realm, like I'm fine with wearing it for now,
Yep.
But cool, man. Yeah, let's just dive into the show, man. So we're talking about cash out refinance. Siju, what do you think? Well, I guess give us a description. Like, what is a cash out refinance? It deals with refinancing, of course, and equity in your property. So why don't you just give us a quick rundown?
Cool. The word of the day is cash out refinance. I think a few people asked the questions from the show on, hey, what's the best way to, use money or get money that you can use to invest, right? Other than saving. How do you leverage money, or where do you get money from? And this, I think, would be a good way to kind of get going if you have some kind of equity or refinancing abilities within what you're working with today. And so with that said, what is a refinance? A refinance is basically somebody that has a mortgage. If you have a house today, if it's worth $100,000 today and you're paying, let's just say, when I bought a house over 10 years ago, the interest rates were over 6%. Okay, so 6% you're paying on interest when you first bought the house. Now here we are in 2021, and the interest rates are 2%, maybe 3%, let's just say, best case scenario. And you basically go to the bank and say, hey, I want to restructure my loan. So my $100,000 loan that I started on 10 years ago, I see that I was paying 6% on it. I want to pay the 3% that's going on now. That means you're cutting it almost in half in what you're paying in interest. And if you ever run numbers, which I highly tell people to, get a mortgage calculator and just run your numbers and just say, hey, what am I paying just in interest versus actually going down to the principal, which means what you're paying into the actual loan, you will be amazed. A lot of it is front loaded, meaning you're paying all interest up front. So if you're paying something high like 6% versus 3%, you can actually refinance it and get that better rate and make sure more of your money goes to the actual principal, which means that's the actual loan and not just interest that's just going to a bank. That's what refinance is.
So let me chime in on that. So when we're talking about refinance, like in the example of $100,000 house, let's say 10 years passes and you've paid it down to 80,000, let's just say, because a lot of it was interest and very heavy on interest, very little on principal. And as time progresses, it changes, right? Where it goes less on interest and bigger on principal, right? That's typically how it goes. When you do a refinance, let's say 10 years later, you do a refinance, it's not on the 100, it's on whatever's remaining, right? So they say $80,000, instead of 6%, we're going to do 3%, you're saving half, but the whole loan starts all over again. If it was a 30-year loan, unless you restructure it to be 15 years, but it's a brand new loan. So you have to keep in mind, it is starting all over, where you're going to be interest heavy in the beginning and then principal light in the beginning, right? And then it'll slowly shift. But because it's a lower principal balance that you're starting on and the interest rates are lower, you typically save a ton of money on a monthly basis. And you could take that extra money that you were paying before and pay into your principal. So that's kind of the goal when you do a refinance. You don't want to just blindly do it, because you have to be mindful that you are restarting the clock.
Great point, great point. And there's also different, so this is why it's important to have a good lender. So there's different products out there. There's, as you mentioned, let's just say you started off with a 30-year loan,
Right.
10 years ago at 6%. And now here you are, your interest rates are dirt cheap at 3%. There's also a 15-year loan. So you're not continuing to pay. There's different products you can do, but when you refinance, exactly what Sajan said, you're basically just restarting the clock on whatever loan that you agree to, whether it's 15 or 30. But then again, the price change is considerably different. So if you guys, those that are started out, just bought a first house, look at the interest rates now. We're here today in 2021. It's April. Trust me, the rates are insanely good, and they'll stay good for a long time, and which makes it very good for investors, those that are looking to buy houses and things like that. The other piece of this that you got to kind of understand in the cash out refi game is equity. So I just touched on it a little bit. If we continue to using the example of the $100,000 house, you have a $100,000 house that you bought 10 years ago. Let's just say you've paid it for 10 years and now you're down to about 80,000. You have $20,000 worth of equity in that house. So whatever you've paid off versus the value of the house is what we consider equity. And now the kicker to that is over 10 years, just like anything else in real estate, most times they're going to be appreciating. So if you're talking about a decade passes, really that $100,000 house is probably worth close to 150,000, to be honest with you. And if we're talking about 10 years ago, a lot of the properties that I was looking at back then at 100 are probably sitting at about 150. So if you only have $80,000 left, the true equity with when they appraise the house, you literally have $70,000 in equity if it's worth 150 on the market.
Right.
So that's what equity is. So equity is basically how much money is paid down versus what the house is worth or appraises for.
Exactly. So yeah, a way to view that is like the current value. Let's pretend it's a chart, right? And this is how much increased in value that is going over time, and this is how much you're paying down the principal balance. In any given moment in time, the value from here minus the what's owed is the equity, right? The difference between the current value and what you owe at that given time. So bleeding into that, let's talk about the cash out refinance, right?
Yep. How would you use it? I think you've done it before, right? Like
I did. So, and it's actually very fresh. Like I recently did it towards the end of 2020 because the rates were crazy. Story time. Let's do this. So with all the properties, it was like the interest rates were going super low, and I'm all like, hey, this might be an opportunity to save. So going into it, the idea was just to do a refinance. We're going to go in, save a little bit of money per month, and use that extra money to pay down the principal, yada, 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 right? So they did the appraisals and all that. And one of the properties, my first one actually, appraised higher than we expected. And so my first thought was like, can you do a cash out refinance? And the lender was like, oh, yeah, we could do that. It takes a little bit more time because we have to do this and that, whatever. But they did it. And so with that cash out refinance, what they essentially do is they take the current value of the house and multiply that by 75 or 80%. I think for me, it was 75%. And then the 75% of the current value, they subtract the remaining balance of the current loan. And so whatever's left from that is cash that you could take and put in your pocket. Like that's your money. But you have to keep in mind, you're getting a brand new loan on that 75%. So in the example of $100,000, you paid it down to 80. Like on a typical refinance, your number is $80,000. You're doing a new loan on 80,000. But with this cash out refinance, you're saying, oh, it's worth 150 now. And so I'm going to take 75% of 150 and get a new loan on that. So that potentially could increase your monthly payment, but you have to look at the opportunity that you're going to get, right? So in my scenario, it increased my payment. And so that means it decreased my profits, but the profits that I lost was able to be made up by the next property that I could buy. And actually I could buy 2 properties with what I was able to cash out. And so I haven't done that. I bought 1 property with that cash out money, but having the ability to do more was making the whole package more profitable, right? And also you get the benefit of having more properties as well, right? And so the goal right now, I'm in acquisition mode and I want to get as much as I can. So these cash out refinances are very valuable in doing that because you can only save so much, right? And so
Yeah.
using your investments to be able to fund other deals is kind of the way to go to be able to acquire more.
Is the interest rate on those higher if you do a
It,
cash out refi?
yes, it is. It's slightly higher, but since things were so low right now, it was still worth it. It was kind of painful because you're like, oh, at the time it was like, oh, they're giving it for 3%. Oh, but this cash out refi one is going to be 4% or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
it's
I
still
was just like,
small.
hey man, just look at the goal, stick to the
Yeah.
goal and just keep running, right? So and I don't know if those are the exact numbers, but it was something like that, right? But at the end of the day, you're able to walk away with a lump sum of money that in my mind, I viewed it as, all right, I have a tenant in place in this property. So that mortgage is being paid off no matter what. I lost profitability on that property by X amount of dollars, but I'm able to purchase another property and gain that much more.
Yeah.
And the way it all kind of panned out was like, I was able to buy another property and then get that going. And then the numbers between both of them, the profits of both of them superseded what I was making with the one. So it worked out. But really the money could be used for anything. You could pay down debt. You could buy another house like I did. You could pay down debt, that high interest rate debt, like kill that, like just get rid of that. So that way you can move on to bigger and better things. Really anything, like you could build up your reserves if you need your reserves. Yeah, there's a ton of things you could do because it's your money.
Yeah, it's basically the loan is cash. It's when it's a cash out refi, that's cash in your bank. So if they gave you, if you qualified for $25,000, out of that cash out refi, it's essentially they write you a check for that. So
Yeah,
again, you can do like what Saj said, you can do anything you want with it. Now be mindful, you're taking a little bit higher interest rate and
yeah,
it's a bigger loan and you're restructuring it. So use that money wisely. So it looks like in Sajan's case, he was still profitable on that one house that he refinanced from a rental perspective, and then he acquired another house that was also cash positive, meaning he's making a profit every month. And so essentially you're building your wealth, and he probably doubled what his profits were by using that money to get into another house.
exactly. Like the name of the game is, like right now at least, is acquisition. And
Mhm.
so the cash out refinance was giving me the ability to acquire more because with our 9 to 5 jobs, you can only save so much, right?
Yeah,
You have to pay for
you're limited.
bills. The kids got to eat. You know what I'm saying? Like the kids, they want 3 meals a day, so you got to pay for that. So you
Three
just got to
full
get
meals, by the
creative.
way.
Say it again.
3 full meals, not like the kids' meals anymore.
Yeah, you're right. They're getting bigger. So yeah, that's right. So it kind of forces you to be in a position to get creative. And a cash out refinance is an opportunity to get creative. And again, like you'll get that check, it'll be in your pocket, and it's very important that you don't just throw it away. Don't go buy a Porsche, don't go do anything crazy. Because it is still a debt, right? You've increased your payment for that one property that you refinance, right? And so to me, it was more beneficial to purchase another property. Um, but again, I would highly advise if you have like high interest rate debt, you should use that so if you have a property now, I would highly advise you to get an idea of what it's worth right now and how much equity do you have, and just kind of run the numbers. Like you could easily calculate how much equity you have, multiply that by 75%, and just take that number and minus the principal balance and see how much is left and see if that's something that would be beneficial. Maybe that could be your jump start to the real estate game.
That's a great point, Saj. I think a lot of people don't look at that value of that house. I mean, if you're living in your house for years, you that's not the first thing that goes into your head. You're just paying the bills and kind of rolling with the flow. But
Yeah,
if you have considerable equity, if you have a $200,000 or $300,000 house and you only owe 150 on it,
right.
that's money you can tap into that people didn't realize, right? That's a lot of money you can actually tap into. And that's a good way to, again, use that, buy investment properties or pay down bad debt. Again, I think the key is make sure you don't take that and go buy a boat or something like that. That's
it's tempting.
Buy something that's working for you. That's that's going to be the key thing. What you do with that money is the most important thing.
Yeah, like buy assets so they could cover your liabilities. Like that's kind of the way I want to be. I want to, if I could fund an asset and then that's going to generate some money for me, I'll use that money to do the fun stuff, right? Because that cow will always produce milk, right? But if I just slaughter the cow and sell steaks, it's just a quick fix, right? You get to enjoy the steak or you get to enjoy the money from that, whatever, but it's done after that, right? Once you kill it, it's gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess just a quick warning: if you have your own primary residence and you're thinking about doing this cash out refinance, make sure you crunch the numbers to know that the extra that you're paying is worth it. That you'll be more profitable on that property that you're going to buy. I'm a huge advocate of the house you're living in, pay that down as quick as possible. I'm not saying that I've paid off my house, but I'm of that mindset of like pay down the house that you're living in, because that's kind of a debt. Like it's not really a good debt because it's not producing money for me. Whereas if you have a rental property, someone else is paying for that anyway, right? And so you could be in a position to where it's like, all right, let that person continue to pay for it. I'll lose profits here to be able to buy another asset to produce more profits for me later.
Debt is anything that's taking money out of your pocket. Bottom line. If you want to put it in simple terms, anything that's taking money out of your pocket, it's a debt. Your house, it's a debt. It's not a liability. A lot of people think it's a liability, but an asset, but it's not. It's a liability. Rental units put money in your pocket if it's cash positive and it's making money for you every month. Right. So that's essentially an asset because it's putting money into your pocket and you're building equity. So just to summarize what Saad said, like a lot of people consider their house an asset. It really isn't.
Right. To some extent, like you do get the appreciation the market produces, right? I mean, like it'll increase in value, but every pay down of that mortgage that you established is from your hard work. You are paying that down, right? Whereas with a rental property, you initially put the 20%, or if it was a house that you used to live in, maybe 5 or 10%, whatever it is, but the rest of it is paid off by someone else. And so someone's buying you the house, the market is increasing in value, and that's how you're building equity. That's how you're building wealth. That's how you're getting like this passive income every month when you're cash positive. So keep all that in mind if you're thinking about diving into this whole cash out refinance situation. It could work. It could work if you do your primary residence. I'm not saying it won't, but just be very careful with the numbers. Is there anything else that you want to add, Siju, like in regards to the cash out refinance?
No, just I think this highlights this whole episode just highlights, there's a lot of different ways you can get money. It's not just, you don't have to just make it yourself. Say there's only 24 hours in a day. So you're capped out on how much money you can make a day. So that is a limiting factor when you're talking about if you're acquiring properties and things. So there's multiple ways to leverage debt and money when you're looking for investment. And this is just a great way to do it. If you're in your time of life that you have wealth build up in a real estate property, whether it's your primary or whatever, it just highlights that you can leverage that and have it make more money for you, have your money working for you.
Agreed. And like you brought this up before, but it's about being in conversation with people and like knowing what you're able to do, right? Because like, for example, when you buy a house, you're whatever, like you just started working and you buy a house and all that stuff, you're not thinking about investments and stuff. You're thinking about, hey, I need to pay the mortgage and keep moving forward. And there's nothing wrong with that. And even this whole cash out refinance situation, that was an idea that my friend just kind of plugged in my head. Like he's in the hotel, motel, apartment world. Like he does that. And they do this all the time, this whole cash out refinance, to be able to accumulate more properties, build their wealth. And so when he explained that to me, I was able to easily kind of transpose that to the single family homes that I'm doing and, slowly build that way. But it only happens in conversations, right?
Yep.
When you're not in the know, when you're just living your life, there's no reason to really know how to do these things, right? Like I would have never known what a cash out refinance was until he said that. And so we're hoping that this podcast is something that could be beneficial to people to just plant a seed of like, oh, let me think about this a little bit more. Let me see what I'm able to do, right?
Yep.
So, we definitely hope that this was helpful. If y'all have any questions, concerns, comments that you want to leave, like wherever you're watching this, whether it's Facebook or YouTube or whatever it is, please leave a comment below. Like it's really exciting for us to have conversations with y'all. And so if there's anything that we missed, if we missed the mark on anything, if you had anything more to add as far as like a refinance or equity or cash out, please let us know. We really want to know.
Tune in every week. Get more
Exactly.
info.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Guts and Grind with Siju and Sajan. Be sure to tune in next time.